Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cross Culture Critic. I'm Chris.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm hanging in. I'm a little cold today.
It's a little cold in here.
I turned on the fire. I got the fireplace on because I was chilly before you came.
It's a little cold today. I'm feeling like pretty bad today. I made some bad life choices on the way here. I was hungry, so I got Taco Bell.
Ooh.
So I'm just right now sitting in shame because you always have that moment at Taco Bell where you're like, I'm better than this. Like.
I did, to make you feel better though, I did read an article recently that said, as far as the major fast food chains go, Taco Bell is the healthiest.
Really?
Yeah, that like 5 years or 7 years ago, they brought in this nutritionalist to Taco Bell corporate, and she's cut a third of all sodium out of the food.
Okay.
She's brought in the cantina versions of stuff, so the fresher ingredients.
That I don't eat, but...
Yeah, exactly. I still get the cheesy Frito Crunch burrito. But, like, they were saying how she's done all that. So, if you are on a diet, they actually said it's okay. Like, if you go to Taco Bell and you get, like, 2 original crunchy tacos... That's actually a pretty decent, like meal or snack or whatever you would call it.
I did much more than that, but it wasn't horrible. It was like, I think 4 soft tacos. But,
there you go. But,
yeah.
I mean, still,
Could've
like, in
been
the
worse.
grand scheme of things.
Could have gotten the Mexican pizza and then dumped sour cream on that.
Yeah, or the new loaded nacho fries.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I don't want to get fries from Taco Bell. I went there because I've had a cold the past week, and Taco Bell helps with the sinuses. I think it turns all the mucus into diarrhea. So,
I always go, whenever I have a sinus thing, I always go sushi because wasabi.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like wasabi will just blow your sinuses.
It will. I can't have wasabi because I saw Jackass.
Oh, when he does wasabi
when he does it up
shooter?
the nose and it just makes him puke. And ever since, I can't have wasabi. And I remember putting a little bit of it on a chopstick once, and it ruined my night.
See, I love sushi, but I do what people say you're not supposed to do. And I put my soy sauce, and then I mix wasabi in my soy sauce.
Okay. I have a friend who does that, yeah.
Yeah, and supposedly sushi etiquette, you're not supposed to do that.
Sushi etiquette, you're also supposed to use chopsticks. And that's like a no with me. I try.
Yeah?
I would never go out for sushi on a date, like when I was dating my wife, because I wasn't sure I liked it, but also the chopsticks, just put me into paranoia. And I've gotten a little bit better, but I drop the food a lot. In fact, I have this one group of friends I often go out for sushi with, and I don't know why. When I sit with Kelly now and eat sushi, I'm fine. I can use the chopsticks fine. But whenever I go out with these people, I am always dropping it in the soy sauce. The soy sauce splashes all over me, and then I have to ask for a fork.
Yeah, so. I'm pretty good with chopsticks. Enough that I don't have to think about it. I can eat my whole meal without having to think about it. And then my girls, they're pretty doggone good with chopsticks, and then I bought them their own pair.
Okay.
So
Did they take it to the restaurant with them?
No, here at the house, if we bring stuff here, and my youngest asked me last time, she's like, Dad, why do we just have to use chopsticks with sushi? Can we use it with other things? I'm like, you can use chopsticks whenever you want. If you're here, I don't care. So she is recently eaten cereal and and all sorts of different things with chopsticks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to try that. That's my practice. So, to our listeners, if this sounds a little bit different, we're using a new recorder today, so hopefully everything works out there. I have killed literally everything electronic or such that I've touched in the past week or so.
Well, you lost your phone, or you did something to your phone, right?
Well, first it started with my Kindle. 2 weeks ago, I just sat down to use my Kindle, and it was frozen. It was this little screen with the boy sitting under the tree, and I could not unfreeze it for the life of me. I looked on Google, I followed all their steps, called Amazon, they walked me through it, nothing. So it's totally dead. I have to buy a new Kindle, which crushes me. I love my Kindle.
They're only, $30 though?
Oh, cheapest one's $100.
Oh, seriously?
So, yeah, Amazon's giving me 15% off because it broke after a year, but it's $100 for the cheapest Kindle. So,
oh, wow.
So there's that. Then, the next week, I guess I didn't break this, but I get a call from my wife. It's been, hot and cold here. The weather's just been going back and forth. And she hit one of our potholes with my car and put a nice bubble in the tire. So we had to go get that fixed, and thankfully that was under warranty. But then, Saturday, I'm sitting in the movie with some friends, and my phone starts buzzing every 15 seconds. which is weird because I don't put my phone in vibrate. I always put it to silence, and it wasn't like a sustained buzz like a call. I just noticed like every 15 seconds my leg's buzzing. I'm like, that's weird. So I take it out and look at it.
Some guy hits you because you took your phone out in the theater.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how my phone broke, because I held my phone up to protect my face.
Smashed his teeth out with it.
Yeah. No, I look at it and it like the phone had gone to DOS. Like, it was weird. And I've had this phone less than a year. And I had dropped it once or twice, but it had worked fine. And I guess it just totally finally failed on me. So I have the insurance. I have a phone that's waiting for me at home right now. Came today. But it's very weird to be without your phone for 3 days.
Yeah, I would love that. I would absolutely love it.
I feel so untethered from the world. And what's weird is, like, I had to email people and say, hey, I don't have a phone, so check my email.
Yeah.
So email me if you need to get a hold of me. But you gotta wait, because I gotta get to a computer and check my email.
Right.
It feels like such an inconvenience.
Right.
But 10 years ago, that's how we were doing everything.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, how do I check my email? How do I know what the weather's going to be?
Oh my gosh, I gotta wait 15 minutes to get home to check my email.
How do I don't know what time it is. Like, just like wandering. My life has been like, do you remember
what am I supposed to do? Buy a watch?
Exactly. I'm supposed to talk to my wife, but how can I do that without a text message?
Right.
She's all the way 2 rooms over. Right. But I felt like my life is like, do you remember that Saturday Night Live skit where like Will Ferrell is hosting the morning show and the teleprompter dies? So they're just like, what do we say? What are the words? And like over this course of 5 minutes, they devolve, so they're eating the weatherman and things like that. So I have felt just totally lost without it. And but on the other hand, like, I felt free. Like, I went to the tire store yesterday, and everyone was looking at their phones, like in the waiting room. And it was like, in a horror movie, when you go in, you see the hero go in, and he knows something's not right, and everyone else is just oblivious to it. Right. I like walk into the discount tire, and I'm looking around like, going on, and everyone's just like scanning their phone.
It's a Matrix. You're not in it anymore.
Yeah, I'm like slamming it out of their hands. Like,
you're like, I took the white pill, not on purpose though.
Toss down your black mirrors.
Right, just until tomorrow when I get mine.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to get my phone soon and be back connected to the land of the living.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. You're probably connected to the land of the lost. The land of the living are those that probably don't live with their cell phones.
Yeah, but they're telling me all about it.
So. And they also CrossFit.
Yes, exactly, yes. So I thought for this episode, since I'm not on any social media right now because of Lent, and I don't have a phone to connect me to media or anything, we would talk about maybe some of the things we've been watching, reading, or listening to lately. Or,
absolutely.
Games we've been playing, things like that. So whatever's been on your mind is on the table. And, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. One thing that I tried to watch, I tried really hard. My buddy really built it up for me. And the way he was explaining it, I was stoked to get home and watch it, was Man in the High Castle.
That's the Amazon series, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Amazon Prime series. And if you don't know what it is, I'm going to explain it to you without giving the show away. But when I explain it to you, you're going to probably feel the way I did. Mm-hmm. And so what it is Man in the High Castle is a show that's set in like 1962 America.
Okay.
If America lost World War II.
Okay.
So if the Axis won. So basically from the East Coast to about Kansas, and is all Nazi. Like, that's all Nazi America.
Okay.
And then from the West Coast to about the Rockies is all Japanese America. So it's called the Pacific States, and then the other side is called, I forget what the German side of it's called. Then from the Rockies to about Kansas, what would be kind of like the Bible Belt, the Midwest, they like, that's called the neutral zone.
Okay.
And so like everyone kind of like flees to go there. Well, that's neither here nor there. So that's kind of like this gray area that both governments, the Germans and the Japanese, can kind of maneuver in there, free of any recourse, without, and do as they want. So in this kind of like little thin section running down the middle of America is this neutral zone. And so the whole show is kind of based around, okay, there's now a resistance.
Okay.
So there's a resistance that's fighting back against that. So it seems like a really cool movie.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool idea.
The premise is I think, fantastic. I love World War II, so like the premise and everything like that is just, really got me. And then I watched it, and it's in its second season's done, and its third season is coming out soon, I believe.
Okay.
Man, I could not get into it.
First season at all?
At all. And I watched, like, honest to God, I watched the first 5 episodes, had no idea what I watched.
Wow.
Now, we've talked about this before. This is kind of my MO.
Yeah, and they have like Stranger Things with
Stranger
you.
Things.
Yeah.
It took me 3 times before I got it, and I was like, I love this, and I love Stranger Things now. So with Man in the High Castle, I watched the first 5 episodes, had no idea what I was watching, where it was like, I was so confused. Called it quits. So I went and told my buddy at work, and he's like, dude, I must have built it up too much. You seriously, you got to watch it. It is awesome. So my girlfriend and I, we finished, what was that we were watching? The Crown. So we finished that, so we were like, let's find something else to watch. So I was like, how about this? So me and her sat down, watched the first episode. After the first episode, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. I think we watched the second episode, and we haven't watched any from that point on. And at no point has Molly said, hey, we need to watch this again. We need to watch episode 3. Like, I think if I don't bring it up, she's not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
So I don't think she really likes it either.
I think that's like the key for me. If I know I'm not going to finish a show, it's that how much do I really want to watch it?
Yeah.
Like if I feel like I have to force myself to watch it,
yeah,
I'm probably not going to make it through. I had that problem with Game of Thrones, actually.
Did you?
My wife and I tried to watch it. Well, she ended up continuing with it and watching the whole thing. After about 3 or 4 episodes, she'd be like, do you want to watch Game of Thrones? No. Like, it was honestly like trying to keep track of all the names and all the alliances was bad.
See, that's my problem.
And I actually thought it was kind of boring.
That is my problem with Game of Thrones. I enjoy watching it. Mm-hmm. Visually, like the what am I saying? CGI, the warfare, all that stuff is like fantastic. Mm-hmm. But then, like, I'll go to work the next day and like people are talking about it, and they're talking about this character or that character, and I have no idea who they're talking about. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's, the big tall guy with the scar on his face. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know that was his name. And they're like, oh, and so and so and so. And I'm like, who's he? And they're like, no, that's the queen. And blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, which queen? Like, I know Mother of Dragons, but other than that, like, I don't know, like, is that the midget sister? The little person's, that family.
Yeah, like Peter Dinklage was the only person I could keep track of.
Yeah, and I have no clue. So when people talk to me about Game of Thrones, they literally have to be like, okay, the family from the north, the Snows. The Snows I know Jon Snow, I know Sansa, and all them, because she's a beaut. But after that, I'm just like, dude, I don't know who you're talking about. There's 200 characters in it, and I don't have a clue.
And I don't want to learn.
Yeah, like, that's I really don't.
I've watched Lost. Lost had like 30 different characters on it to keep track of. I went through Lost the whole way. 24, fine. Breaking Bad, fine. Game of Thrones, I think it might be fantasy for me. I just can't connect with it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm not a...
See, that's a big thing with me, too. Like, I like sci-fi. I don't like all sci-fi. I'm kind of choosy with what sci-fi I like. But I'm really not a fantasy guy. I'm not into wizards and dragons and elves and things like that. And I think for me it stems from growing up, my mom not letting me play Dungeons and Dragons. So I
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I had a friend down the street, his name was Chris, and he had 2 older brothers, and they were into Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, and Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And my mom said, you are not allowed to listen to heavy metal, and you are not allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons. And so, if you weren't a kid in the 80s playing Dungeons and Dragons, there was no other reason for you to have wizards, elves, dragons in your life.
I think it's the same thing with me. I had a friend invite me over to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I asked my mom, just not even knowing anything about it. I'm like, hey, Mom, can I go to so-and-so's house to play Dungeons and Dragons? Next thing I know, I'm in my youth pastor's office, and he's giving me a book about how it drives people to kill themselves and everything.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, when we were in the 80s, when we were kids, like, some kid in Oklahoma City was, like, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and, like, he went and killed somebody after that. And after that, it was like, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you know, this is your fate.
Yeah, it was like, I don't think I have ever done anything that has shocked my parents as much as asking to play Dungeons and Dragons. And then they finally were thinking about it, and they're like, well, you have to bring us home the instruction book so we can look through it. So I asked my friend, like, can I have the instruction book to show my parents? Well, it's got a scantily clad woman with her boobs hanging out on the front, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I just know this isn't going to fly.
This is futile.
So,
but with that, like, there was, like, Dungeons and Dragons, and then, just like anything, other companies came out with things. Mm-hmm. So I remember there was Dungeons and Dragons, like all those role-playing games, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember I wasn't allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons, but then there was this other game called Recon that was Dungeons and Dragons, but it was set around the Vietnam War.
Oh, and that was probably okay.
Yeah, that was great
because it was America.
Yeah, and I could play that.
Yep.
And you instead of like building your wizard or your rogue elf or something like that, mm-hmm. you would be like, I'm a heavy machine gunner, or I'm a grenadier, or I'm whatever. And then another one came out for Marvel Comics.
Okay.
So you could make your own superhero, and you could do that and kind of do the whole way that Dungeons and Dragons worked, but you were doing it in a different world. And that's why I just never, like, the elves, the wizards, I would look at, an Iron Maiden poster, or I'd look at heavy metal posters, and they had wizards, and they had, all these, like, different things. Yeah, and I, like, wasn't allowed to play that. So here I am at 40 years old, almost 41, and I still, like, I'll turn on The Hobbit, and I'm like, The Hobbit will be on TV. I'm like, I don't know if I should be watching this.
See, I should call my mom.
Right.
See. Oh, it's He-Man. No.
Right. That was another one.
Oh, He-Man. Only God is the master of the universe.
Oh, my mom was not a fan of us watching. It's funny because my mother now, mm-hmm. like, my mom's like the most kick-butt mom. Like, she's awesome. And it's so weird, like, looking back, that I look back and say, like, oh, well, my mom didn't want us doing this, and my mom didn't want us doing that, and listening to this and listening to that. But she wasn't strict.
Yeah.
But I think now that I'm a parent, I look back like, no, she was doing what she was supposed to do. She was parenting.
And I think, too, like, you grew up in the church, right?
Yeah.
My parents, too, were in the church, and I don't look at my parents and say they're strict. My dad would do horror movie nights with us when my mom was out of town, and he'd overcalculate and rent Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I couldn't watch He-Man because only God's the master of the universe.
Right.
And I think what would happen was they'd just be doing their regular parenting thing, and then something would kind of go through the church, like, hey, do you know about this? And they'd be like, oh, we got to watch out for that.
Exactly.
And so that's why, like, one Halloween, my dad put his foot down and was like, we're not celebrating Halloween, even though we'd done it every other year.
Yeah.
And it was because there was stuff circulating in our church that Halloween is evil.
Yeah, that's what I wholeheartedly believe with my mom. Not that she, like, bought into this gimmick thing, mm-hmm. but, I mean, I think it was, the church said, hey, parents, there's heavy metal music out there. There's, Dungeons and Dragons. There's, all these different things. Just know, like, there's He-Man. Whatever the case may be. And parents were like, well, you know what? If my kid could watch He-Man or G.I. Joe, I'd rather him watch G.I. Joe.
Yeah, or, I mean, you just, as a parent, too, I'm like, I don't always know. Like, so I'm going to err on the side of caution, and I'm a little more lenient on my parents on that.
Yeah.
I did come a little around on fantasy, just, I think because my wife is, like, a huge fantasy person, and, like, she's writing a fantasy novel and things like that. So I like Lord of the Rings, the movies. I could not get through the books. And Harry Potter I was good at, but I always consider Harry Potter more fairy tale.
Okay.
And I think there's a difference. Like, I like the stories. I just don't get into when people are like, oh, do you know in Elvish what this means? And same thing with Star Wars, when people are like, well, Jabba the Hutt's actually da 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 da. I'm like, shut up. But I don't need
as
to
a
know.
Star Wars fan, I think it's less like that with Star Wars and more with Star Trek.
I can see that, but Star Wars, they get into it too. Like, they're like, well, did you know Boba Fett's father was really? I'm like, no, because it wasn't in the movie, and I don't care about what wasn't in the movie.
Right.
So that's Man in the High Castle.
That's Man in the High Castle. That's one that I've tried to watch recently.
Okay. Well, I'll bring up one that I watched and I liked, and I think you said you were watching it too. It's Everything Sucks on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I watched the entire first season of this. It's 10 episodes. They're like 25 minutes long. It's a short binge. I really liked this. I dug this show.
I really did too. The as an adult, I liked it because I'm looking at it through the eyes of myself back then. Because when this is all going on, I believe it's 1997.
Yeah. Yes. The show's like 1996.
Yeah.
And it's about a group of kids in school, and I'm looking at it through like my eyes back then, and I can relate. The problem is, you got daughters.
I have daughters, and as a 40-year-old, the content by which they're talking about and like what the show is talking about, I'm not going to let my daughters watch this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, in 5 years maybe, but right now, no. So even though these are middle schoolers on the show, what they're talking, like the content of the show is way beyond junior high.
Well, it surprised me because it's like a TV 14, I think. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't think there's anything explicit. There's no nudity or anything, but I think like there's a girl masturbating in the first episode.
Yeah, first episode, like a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah,
and she takes out what would be like a Penthouse magazine.
Yeah,
she's looking at nude women, and she does her deal.
Yeah, I'm thankfully my kids are like 6 and 2, so they're not into that, like interested in those TV shows yet. But I could definitely see if my kids were watching, I'd be like, no, this is actually a grown-up teen show.
Yeah,
like
that's exactly it.
It really felt. I felt it wanted to be Freaks and Geeks, which it's not, because Freaks and Geeks is one of the best shows ever made. Mm-hmm. But I still thought like it hit really close. Like
I felt like it was trying to be Stranger Things in the sense of like Stranger Things did such a good job of like being set in the time period that it was set in, and the things that would go around and play into that show was seamless, just effortless. The music really drove the show. Their outfits that they wore, what they would be doing, things that would be in the kids' rooms. And you'd see something, you'd be like, yes, and I totally remember that from back then. And, again, like a song would you'd remember more stuff, and I'd be geeked for it. In this, it seemed like very forced 1997, 90s stuff would just be, forced into the show.
Did you finish the season?
I did.
Okay. I thought at the beginning, definitely.
Yeah.
At the first few episodes, it tries to be more comedy than anything, and I felt like that didn't quite work. And the 90s stuff, like how many characters drink Surge, and it like zooms in on the Surge can.
Exactly.
Or the music is just it's so spot on 90s that it's almost a cliche. Like, I mean, well, I assumed you liked it because Mighty Mighty Boss Stones are at the very beginning.
Yes.
But then it's
open up the very first one.
It's like, my high school soundtrack is playing through it. And there's a nostalgic hook for that. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're really trying to hit this 90s thing.
And with saying that, like, it would be a song. I might be wrong. Like, maybe I need to go back and watch it. But it would be like a song that was playing just to play. Whereas in Stranger Things, sometimes it felt as though the episode you were watching was written around a song.
Oh, yeah.
So there would be, should I stay or should I go now? While they're in the house, do I stay or do I go? Am I going to stay and fight this thing, or am I running and just leaving this city, leaving this town? So like the clash, it would always come back when they were in that, in Will's house or whoever's house, and the lights are up and all that stuff. Every time they went in there, the radio would turn on because from the beyond, the upside down, he would play that, should I stay or should I go now? And so you're always hearing the Clash, you're hearing that when it's so there were so many songs that I felt like the episodes were written around. Whereas this one, I felt they had a really, really, really good story. And again, I binge watch it. There's only a few episodes, and they're each
and it's quick,
a half hour.
Yeah, if it had been longer, I would have had a harder time.
Yeah,
but 20 minutes, it was easy. Just to get
I think I honest to God, I think I knocked it out in one day.
It was like 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah, like I'm one of my days off. I think we had another one of those cold streaks coming through, and it was like a blizzard on a Wednesday. And I would watch a couple episodes. I'd watch for an hour or so, go do something. I'm just lying. I would just sit there. And then, watch another couple hours. Then at night, I think I finished it up. But I felt like it was a really, really good show. I would go so far as to say I loved it. But what drove me nuts is like this really good show. Have you ever seen the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
Yes.
Okay.
I like it.
So you know that one part in the movie where they go, Taco Bell,
yes.
product placement, Taco Bell.
This is 90s placement.
Yeah, it was just 90s placement. And it was like, they did all this, and then we're like, wait a second. We could do the same scene again, but have Surge in it. Yep. We could do the same scene again and have this and this in it.
Like there's one where a girl, just for no reason, they're sitting in the library, and something beeps, and she pulls out her Tamagotchi. And I'm like, wow, okay, yes, it's the 90s. I liked the show because I liked the characters so much, so like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the main girl... I know that a few years ago, you'd have a lot of people mad that the main character is this girl who's discovering she's a lesbian. I thought that was so well done. Like,
yeah.
Very empathetic, very much... This is, can you imagine being in the 90s when this was still kind of a fraught topic and figuring out this is who you are?
Yeah.
Like, I liked that. I loved the principal. Her dad.
Yeah.
Like, his whole arc, he wasn't the dumb dad. He just, he was a guy
who was just stumbling through parenting.
Yeah.
With his wife that had passed. And then the other thing I like is the co-main star, the boy, African-American kid. What I loved about it is here's this black kid and the dynamic he has with the lead girl, and at no point is this, like, social, cultural issue of him and her, black and white, being together,
it's
being
just okay.
forced on your... Yeah, it's just two kids that are falling in love or trying to figure themselves out. And that's all it is. Like, it's not the, every... I feel like every time you watch a movie or a TV show, it's like the cliche thing, like, well, what about his family? Does his family want him dating a white girl, or does her family want her dating a black? And there's going to be this big, oh my gosh, it's, at some point there's going to be this climax of, is either family going to accept it? And that's not in it. It has...
Well, I think that's the way you make it acceptable.
Yeah. I loved how that was...
Treating it as divisive, and it's okay.
Exactly. It was just two kids that, like, were trying to figure out if they like each other or not. And I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I like the show. That's Everything Sucks. It does not suck. It is on Netflix.
Yeah.
You got another one?
Another one that I saw that I took some heat. I don't want to say heat.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
I took some heat.
On my list.
I went and saw the movie Black Panther.
Yes.
I think I'm the only person in America that thought that movie sucked.
I think you are.
I saw it. I thought it was horrible, and I posted all my posts on Facebook said was Black Panther was terrible, and everybody just started commenting. And
okay, but here's the thing. This movie's making like $400 million. When you post Black Panther is terrible, you knew what you were doing. You knew what people were going to say.
Well, here's my thing. After the rant that I just gave about everything sucks and the cultural issue that I loved how it was a non-issue, I feel like people with Black Panther are making it a cultural issue. And it's not. Like, when I first said I didn't like it, people were like joking, like, what are you, a racist? And I'm like, that has nothing to do, like, ask me why I didn't like the movie. It has nothing to do with, my opinion on why I don't like Black Panther has nothing to do with the fact that it's an African American cast, that it has everything to do with black culture and all that stuff, African American culture, not even African American, African culture, yeah. And but here's my deal. I'm hearing that this is the best villain ever.
Like garbage. Period or
garbage. Out of Marvel. People are saying this is the best Marvel villain ever. Killmonger. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We have Magneto. Loki. We have Magneto.
Oh,
we have Loki. We have, you name it. Killmonger isn't even a character that shows up on a blip before this movie.
Well, okay, when I consider Marvel, I'm considering Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
Which X-Men is not part of. X-Men is different things, so they don't mix together with that.
So you're saying just everything that deals with Avengers right now?
Yeah, everything.
Okay, so and all the spin-offs.
And I would say maybe Loki is better. Like, I like Loki a lot, but I like Killmonger a lot.
But I just... So... Hearing that, I'm like, that's absolutely ridiculous right there.
Okay.
The fact that people think this is the best villain of all time. He's even being talked about as being as good as Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, are you kidding me?
Okay, that's crazy.
Are you kidding me?
I wouldn't say that much.
So, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there's this swell right now that because Black Panther and the climate that we're in socially, the social climate, the racial climate that we're in right now, I feel like when somebody dies, like when River Phoenix dies in a heroin overdose outside the Viper room.
He's the best actor ever?
He's the best actor ever. He's, you might as well make him a saint.
I will just for the record say, when Paul Walker died, I had no problem that same day going, it is very sad that Paul Walker died. His movies were garbage.
So, like, this is how Black Panther is to me. Like, I feel like because of the social climate right now, that things are being lifted up higher than they should be on, like, okay, let's set the bar. Like, let's take all black cast. Let's take the racial climate right now. Let's set that aside and let's look at it as, for me, I want to look at it in the Marvel Universe, like how this stacks up.
Okay.
It's better than Thor. Like, well, Thor movies suck.
Well, I like the third.
The third, I haven't seen it. I hear the third is really good.
But the first two, you are absolutely
But the first two, terrible.
Yes.
But, like, you're not... Like, this comes nowhere close to beating Guardians or Guardians 2. This comes nowhere close to beating any of the Avengers movies. Iron Man movies beat this. Like, I don't understand it. So, like, what I'm being told is best Marvel villain ever.
Okay.
They're saying, like, the acting and everything like that. I thought his sister that, like, made all the stuff, I didn't think she was all that. And they're talking about her as, like, being this fantastic character, fantastic actress. I didn't think she showed that to me. And then, like, the last thing, and my biggest beef, that I probably should have started this whole thing with, my biggest beef is, how is he a superhero?
Like, a super suit.
Exactly. He's got a super suit.
So does Iron Man.
That's not his power. Tony Stark's power is genius, which allows him to make the suits.
Oh, no, but he also has... Remember, they give him the, the potion.
Right.
That
which
turns
means
him into, like, super strength.
Right, but he gets his butt handed to him through the entire movie. Like, at no point does he show super strength.
Because he doesn't have his super strength. He gives it up. Remember when Killmonger takes the place of him? So Killmonger has the super strength.
But didn't Killmonger beat him? Or was the power taken so that they could fight fairly?
The power was taken from him when they were fighting. Because that was the thing. When they're fighting, the power is taken from you. And then whoever wins...
Because you have to fight fair.
Right. And then whoever wins gets the power.
Okay.
So T'Challa didn't have the power.
Okay.
They think he's dead. Killmonger gets the power. So he's stronger. And then at the end, they both have the power.
Okay. So even with that... The dude from, like, the mountain...
Oh, by the way,
like,
spoiler alerts for Black Panther.
Like, the dude from the mountain, right? The gorilla, the silverback guy.
Yeah.
Like, he handed it to him. They're both equal, you know. He handed it to him. He gets a lucky, like, shoulder lock, you know, at the end of the waterfall there. I just, at no point And no, because you said spoiler, I'm suddenly realizing that I'm talking so much about the movie.
This movie's made like $1 billion, so I think everyone's seen it.
I know, but I guess at the end of the day, like, I just didn't think this was a superhero movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I just thought it was like a guy who like overcomes like a bad guy. You know what I mean? It's any movie that like a guy overcomes a bad guy. There's no like, there was no superpowers. There's no like, everything was like his suit, and not even like cool stuff about. I don't know. I just thought it was lame. Well, okay, I do understand about people like taking what is, and I will say it's a very important cultural moment to have the first Marvel Cinematic Universe black hero. I think that's awesome that kids can go to the movies and see a hero who looks like him. Let's be very clear, it's not the first black superhero movie, because there was Blade, there was Steel, there was Catwoman, there was Meteor Man, there was Hancock. So they've been there. But, I mean, yeah, for the biggest franchise on the planet to finally have a black lead and a cast of almost all black actors, that's a big deal, and I totally get that. And I totally get why people are excited about it, and I think that's awesome. On the other hand, I think you're right in that you still have to approach the movie as a movie. Like, and I liked Wonder Woman a lot last year. People got mad at me when I dared to say, yeah, Wonder Woman was great, but that ending sucked. The last half hour of that movie is terrible. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, but it's Wonder Woman. I'm like, well, I understand that. And it's a strong female lead, and it was shot by a female.
Yeah, and I'm like, and all those things are great, and I'm glad, and we need more of that. And you know what? They also need to do it better than this last 30 minutes of this movie. I will say I loved Black Panther. To me, it's top 5 Marvel. I think my ranking is first Guardians of the Galaxy, first Avengers. I'm sorry, I don't like the second Avengers that much. First Avengers.
You don't like Age of Ultron?
I don't like it that much.
Oh,
it doesn't age well for me. Third for me, I like Captain America: Civil War a lot. Or no, Winter Soldier a lot. Then I would say Black Panther, and then second Guardians of the Galaxy. I like it because I was talking to a coworker, and he said this too. It's a real movie. Like, I feel like the bad guy has not just a motive, but I'm looking at him going, he's also kind of got a point. Like, here's this nation that is hiding its technology that it could use to help people who have been downtrodden, and it's just hiding it away, and his tactics are wrong to use force, but I kind of see his point. So I like Michael B. Jordan. I'm predisposed to like him because I loved Creed. Did you see the Creed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked him in that. I've liked him since Chronicle, I think was the first thing I saw him in. You mentioned Thor. I like Wakanda. I believe in Wakanda more than I believe in Asgard, which never became a place for me in that movie. Those movies, like, it never felt real, and I thought Wakanda did. But I think that's the cool thing about Marvel movies. You don't have to like it.
Correct.
Like, there are... what I think is so cool is they go in so many different directions that you're bound to not like one of them.
Yeah, and that is what's awesome about the Marvel Universe. And, like, in Star Wars, because Star Wars is a franchise that gives you giant chunks in movies. Mm-hmm. So here's your chunk, and you gotta like or dislike what's going on in the movie as a whole. Well, what we deal with in the Marvel Universe is, if you want, you can go up to the comic book store right now and buy the entire back catalog of Black Panther.
Yeah.
And if you like Black Panther and you associate and you feel close to this character, you can read all about Black Panther and then see his contribution to the Marvel Universe played out in the movies and stuff like that. Growing up, I hated Spider-Man. I don't like Spider-Man. But seeing Spider-Man on the big screen and seeing, again, like what he lends to like Civil War and things like that, that was cool. That's acceptable. Again, I'm not going to rush out and buy Spider-Man stuff. But so what's cool in the Marvel universe is when you're looking at a movie, it goes beyond the movies. It goes to the comic books are the origins. Whereas Star Wars, the origins are not comic books.
Yeah.
The movies have comic book spin-offs, but that's it. So what I do like is what you were saying, like, you have this group of Avengers. I'm never going to pick up a Black Widow comic book.
Yeah.
Like, she does nothing for me. Again, like, her superpower is espionage and lying. Like, that doesn't rank real high on my interest level.
But in the movies, she's Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
Which does a lot for me.
Correct. But, like, the Hulk. Like, I'm a huge Hulk fan. That's what I collected growing up. So, like, I can take away from those movies the Hulk. Iron Man is awesome. Like, those types of things. Captain America is one of my faves of all time. So, like, those guys, I love that. And I can shut off the movie and I can take out my old comics and I can read just about that character. Mm-hmm. And that is what I do like about the Marvel Universe. Where some, black kid in Detroit who Captain America means nothing to him. Mm-hmm. The Hulk means nothing to him. Suddenly, he has a strong, morally sound, all this stuff, you can go on and on and on, character that he can buy into, as opposed to, when I say morally sound, you have Black Panther who's fighting for justice and wants all those things, all those characters that make what we would call a hero great. Mm-hmm. I would much rather have a kid who's, associates with that guy more than a rapper who's talking about slinging dope and bitches, mm-hmm. and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I would love if kids, those kids that are in the movie theater watching that movie, and they're just, it changes their focus. Like, wow, I didn't know this whole comic book world was out there, mm-hmm. and I'm going to read more about this guy, and I want to get into this, and hopefully they go down that road and get into that creativity and pull those morals out of it rather than going down the other road.
Sure. And I think, like, the last thing, too, is, like, Marvel goes, like, they do comedy, they do space opera, they do this, and you can, like, Thor Ragnarok is a weird movie in that, as, like, a Marvel movie, as part of, like, the whole Avengers universe, I don't like it. Mm. Like, because it's silly, and it doesn't do anything, but I will watch that movie probably more than any other Marvel movie, because it's just a good comedy. Like, it makes me laugh. It's a really funny movie.
That's how I feel with Guardians. I think Guardians is just it's another one that the comedy, the music, I mean, it just goes. That it's really good.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite. So do you have any other things this month?
I'm trying to think. I started watching the Unabomber series on Netflix.
Okay.
And I want to get into Flint Town.
The Flint Town I just added. I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't watched it either, so stay tuned. We'll probably be talking about that soon, because Flint Town looks to be very, very good.
That looks good. I'll just do one more then.
Yeah.
And it's because this one I had to watch for my blog, which I'll talk about in a minute, but it's also might be relevant to the interests of listeners of this podcast. It's a CBS show called Living Biblically.
Okay.
And it is a show, it's based on a book about a guy who decided for a year he was going to try and stick to all the rules in the Bible.
Okay.
And try and live it. He was an atheist, but he decided he was going to do it just to see if he could. The show kind of switches it up a bit. It's this guy who's, kind of probably about our age. He's in his 40s, 30s, 40s. And his best friend dies. His wife finds out she's pregnant. He realizes he's not a great guy. So he needs to get his life together. And a Bible ends up in his cart at the bookstore. So he decides he is going to live the Bible to the letter. And he kind of gets a priest and a rabbi to help him. And it's a sitcom. And I watched 3 episodes of this. I think tonight the second episode airs as we're recording this. It's a reminder of why I don't watch CBS sitcoms. It is definitely like an old-fashioned laugh track.
Oh, no.
Nagging wife, crazy coworker sitcom. And the pilot of it is horrible. It's kind of like, he finds out the Bible says, don't mix fibers. So he wears an all-white suit, because isn't that crazy? The Bible says this. And he finds out one of his friends is cheating on his wife. So he throws a rock at him, because the Bible says stone adulterers.
Oh, no.
And I got really worried about where this show was going. Because that just sounds like really lazy comedy, which most sitcoms are. But I will definitely say, like, the next 2 episodes I don't think got funnier, but they got more interesting, because instead of, look at this crazy thing the Bible says, it's, oh, well, the Bible says I'm supposed to be praying. Well, I've never really prayed. I've never incorporated that in my life. Does it work? Why is it so hard to pray? And I thought, and his wife is an atheist, and he's, trying to live this way, and so they have discussions about that. And I thought that was really fascinating. And then he did an episode about you shouldn't have any false gods, and he realizes his cell phone, his smartphone, is taking him away from everyone. So he overreacts and smashes his cell phone, and then is trying to live without his smartphone. And I appreciate that the show is kind of having this dialogue about, hey, living by faith is a very hard thing, and you look kind of weird when you do it. I just wish it was a funnier show.
Yeah.
It's a really hacky sitcom in many ways. Yeah, I know we had originally talked a while back about Crashing, like maybe doing a thing on Crashing. I think that show is much better at wrestling with faith, like what it looks like to be a person of faith and then start to question that. This isn't that show. This is just, he does the Bible makes him better. I want to see what they're going to do with, what does he do with homosexuality, for instance, when that comes up, or, some of the sayings of the Bible that aren't popular. And also, there doesn't seem to be like a community component where he's in church or anything.
So it's just what he's taking, you know what I mean?
He'll ask his rabbi and priest friends about it.
Okay.
But it's almost like the Bible as self-help book. This is a good principle to follow. And I'm like, well, I don't know that you're getting it at that point. But, again, no other show on TV is having this discussion in this way.
Right.
So I guess that's good. I just wish it was better. CBS is not my thing, so... But if you enjoy your Big Bang Theory and Mom...
which I don't, so...
There you go. So, I'll have more of that on my blog. But I watched that recently. I saw 3 episodes. I don't think I'll watch any more.
No.
So, with that, I think we're at the end of this episode.
All right.
So, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, if you can find me. You can pick up all my stuff, The Insiders, on iTunes. Feel free to buy our entire back catalog of albums. I also do help out with another podcast called Calcagno Radio, Calcagno Radio. And, that's about it.
All right, well, I will announce, you can find me on Twitter at mere Chris-ianity. So that'll get your autocorrect screwed up there. But that is because I have a new blog that just launched this week. Back on Pathos, which is the hub for kind of spiritual conversation online. The blog is called Mere Chris-ianity. So if you look at it this week, this is the first week, I have an intro post there. I have some thoughts on living biblically. I have some thoughts on Lent. I have an interview with Switchfoot's John Foreman that is really interesting. And then going forward, you'll find this podcast there. So I'll be doing some extra things with like extended show notes and listener feedback. And coming this Friday, I'm also doing a post. I have a post up with our 10 best episodes. So if people need to catch up. If people are being introduced to it, it has what I think are some of our best interviews, our best discussions, as a way to kind of introduce them to the blog. So I'll put that in the show notes. And, make sure you're looking at Mere Chris-ianity. It's going to be a fun discussion.
Cool.
So, other than that, we'll see you back next week.
See you.